Overlooking the Essex marshes and in sight of the Thames estuary, the construction of Hadleigh Castle began in or about the year 1215 by Hubert de Burgh, crusader with King Richard I and Chief Justiciar of England and Ireland under King John and later King Henry III. Although extensively refortified by King Edward III in the 14th century, the castle would eventually be sold off for building material in the 16th. In the year 1215, King John gave this area of land, known as the Manor of Hadleigh, along with many other gifts, to Hubert de Burgh as a reward for his loyal and continuing service to the crown. De Burgh was a trusted follower of the king and was the custodian of two important royal castles at Windsor and Dover. When Dover Castle came under siege from Prince Louis of France, who was invited to England to be crowned as king by the rebel English barons, de Burgh, along with 140 knights, skillfully and with much guile successfully defended the castle. And even though King John died during the siege, de Burgh and his men remained loyal to the crown and refused Louis, stating that they would hold the castle for the new king Henry III. Since Henry was only 9 years old at the death of his father, Hugh de Burgh, as Chief Justiciar and friend of the old king, became the effective ruler of England during Henry's childhood. As a statement of his power, de Burgh built, at great expense, Hadleigh Castle. De Burgh's relationship with King Henry was not as cordial as that of King John, and after quarrelling with the new king, de Burgh was forced to return Hadleigh Castle to the king in 1239. Despite the construction cost and pride that the previous owner had had in the building, Hadleigh Castle, overlooking a marsh, it turns out, was in fact not an ideal location to build a castle. And in 1274, 50 years after its construction, the site was described as being badly built and decayed. Yet despite its obvious flaws, the castle and its lands remained in royal hands, and by the reign of Edward III in the first half of the 14th century, large sums of money had been spent on a new gateway, a high tower, lodging chambers and a chapel. King Edward III's rebuilding of Hadleigh Castle was not a show of extravagance nor hubris, but rather one of militaristic foresight. Overlooking the entrance to the Thames estuary, Hadleigh Castle was an ideal location for defence against potential French raids. A likely occurrence since King Edward had declared himself King of France and was very active in stating that claim, most notably on his accompanied visits around the French towns of Crécy and Poitiers. After his death, King Edward's successors took little interest in Hadleigh Castle, and the building was leased to a succession of tenants. Eventually, in 1551, the castle was sold to Lord Riche, who dismantled the buildings and sold them off for building material.